Hello, and welcome to another edition of Bowsie's Vlogs with Bowsie, the Bearded Dragon. And I'm Sonic Blue, her owner. First of all, I'd like to say that this YouTube channel has just crossed 1,000 subscribers, and I think that is all awesome. Keep on subscribing, tell your friends to subscribe. We got tons of videos coming your way, and this is one of the series called Bowsie's Vlogs. And those of you that are new to the channel, I like to do a variety of videos because you're bound to find something that you're going to like. And in this edition of Bowsie's Vlogs, we're going to talk to you about behavioral things that Bowsie likes to do, as well as bearded dragons in general. And for right now, Bowsie is very happy to be here because, well, it's a very happy occasion. She gets to come out in front of the camera, say hello to everybody, and she enjoys her 15 minutes of fame. Just like any other bearded dragon does that loves the camera, and I'm pretty sure Bowsie loves the camera, huh? Now, there are several different behavioral patterns to a bearded dragon, and to help you interpret each one of them and to help you understand what they mean, can better understand you and your bearded dragon as a team working together to take care of each other. And if you can't understand what your bearded dragon is going through, it can be quite difficult to interpret what it is they're feeling if you don't know basically what the extent of their behavioral patterns can be. For instance, you might notice that Bowsie loves to gape. Well, she does that because she's a happy girl. And she loves being in front of camera, she loves watching TV, she loves being around Daddy, and she loves just being out in the public and meeting new people. And she is a people person, let me tell you. She is a people person, and she thinks she's a person, too. She's got enough personality for being a person, and look at that smile. Look at that smile. She loves I don't know if it's a narcissistic thing or something. You like looking at yourself? Yeah, keep looking at me funny. But, no, Bowsie is full of personalities, and learning how to interpret each one is not only challenging, but also fun. Just the many different behavioral patterns that bearded dragons can display. We're going to go over each and every one of them that are common in bearded dragons, and some that aren't so common. For instance, gaping. Gaping is the most common activity your bearded dragon will do. But there are many different reasons why they gape. They'll gape in at least 4 major reasons. The first reason, and is the most common, if they're sitting in their basking spot and they're right under their UVA lights and they start gaping really wide, it means that they're getting enough heat to where they're really heated up, and they do that as a means to cooling off. It's about the equivalent to a dog's panting, and this is why bearded dragons like to gape a lot. It basically helps regulate their temperature, keeps them cool. And so opening their mouths and gaping, it kind of helps cool them off a little bit while they're in their basking areas. Another reason why they gape is out of intimidation. They do this when they're about ready to strike and their beard puffs out. They gape their mouths open really wide. That is a sure sign that basically tells you better leave them alone, because the next thing you know, they're going to come and attack you and bite you, and you don't want to be around for that, especially when there's an angry bearded dragon at your fingertips. You don't want that anywhere near your fingertips because they will bite them. The third more common gaping, and especially Bowsie, she loves doing this all the time. She gapes whenever she is happy. Anytime that she's with me, anytime that I'm talking to her, anytime she's in front of cameras, and especially being held by children, she loves to gape for them, and for the camera, and for Daddy. She loves gaping to show her happiness. And a lot of people will wonder, well, maybe she's hot. Have you ever thought about that? No, she isn't. A lot of the time when I actually have her out long enough, she will gape even if she's not warm. She gapes out of happiness. She gapes out of, just being out and being with Daddy and, hanging out outside of her terrarium and being in front of camera. She's ready there with a pose. Right now she's in her hyper mode, so this is another behavior they have, but I'll get into that in a moment. And the fourth reason why they gape, and probably the most important one to determine, is if they have respiratory problems. If they have problems breathing, they will gape their mouths open to try to draw in some air. Now, Bowsie does not have respiratory problems. Far from it. As a matter of fact, she has perfectly normal breathing. She gapes a lot out of happiness, and a lot of the time she'll gape out of heat too, but she usually in her basking spot whenever she does this. But she'll also gape for a fifth reason, and that reason is out of accomplishment. Bearded dragons will gape out of accomplishment. Like if they have accomplished something that they're proud of, they'll gape. They do feel a sense of pride, and when they do, they'll gape. Right now, that's a happy gape. That is a very happy, smiling gape. But let's say if Bowsie does something that she knows she's going to scare the living heck out of me, and that was her plan, after she scares me, she will give me a reassuring gape. But that is no gape of happiness, it is a gape of accomplishment. She's accomplished making Daddy nervous, and she does this all the time. Don't you, Bowsie? Whenever you jump from a high area and you scare the living crap out of your daddy, you know what happens? I freak out. And a lot of the times, bearded dragons can feel what their owners are feeling just as much as you can feel what they're feeling after you've gone and you've interpreted what they feel, and you've felt what they feel from deep down inside, and you can easily see what they're feeling. If they're gaping out of happiness, you know they're happy. If they're in pain, you can see them, kind of wincing and twitching, and you can definitely tell they're in pain. If they're sick, they'll be lethargic. They're not eating, and let's say they're well out of rumination period, and they just don't want to do anything, and that's lethargism. You can easily tell what a bearded dragon is feeling just by looks. You can tell by facial expression. You can tell by body language. You can tell by their behaviors. And right now, Bowsie is as happy as she can be, aren't you, baby? Are you happy? Another thing the bearded dragons like to do out of behavior is the head bobbing and arm waving. A lot of people asking about that. It's like, well, what is this head bobbing thing they do? What is this arm waving thing they do? It's really weird. No, it's really normal. It's normal for bearded dragons, especially females, to wave their arms, and they'll do it like this. They'll wave, bring it all the way around and down, like in a circular motion, going from the back to the front. And they do this out of a sign of submission. Now, chances are, if you got a bearded dragon and she's doing that, chances are it's a female, because mostly females will do the arm wave, whereas the males will do the head bobbing. Head bobbing is a way of direct opposite to what arm waving is. Head bobbing is more of a sign of domination. If you get a male and a female both together, you'll notice the male is going to do the head bobbing, the female is going to do the arm waving. A lot of bearded dragons, when they're in development, kind of like almost as if they're in puberty, they'll do the arm wave thing too, because they're developing their bodies, they're developing their insides, they're developing their bones, they're developing into a mature bearded dragon, and a lot of them will do the arm wave thing. Other behaviors of the bearded dragon will cause you to draw a blank. What are they doing? Why are they doing this? Some of them like to cuddle. A lot of them love to cuddle, especially if they have a good standing with their owners and a good form of trust has been formed. Like Bowsie will love to cuddle with me. I mean, any chance she gets. I mean, she's cuddling with me right now. This is the way she cuddles. And sometimes, you'll notice she'll start petting me like this, like I do with her, and she'll repeat my actions. So they're very intelligent creatures. They know what they're doing, and they learn from you, the owner. See? She's trying to pet me. Look at that. Look at that. Now, a lot of people will say, oh, she's trying to get a grip too. Well, sometimes they do that too. They'll try to grab onto something, but there's a difference between when they grab onto something and when they're mimicking your movements, like especially in petting. With Bowsie, if she's trying to grip something, she'll actually try to grip it with her fingers. But if she's petting, she'll usually use her claws like this. And there is a difference between when she's trying to grip and when she's trying to pet. She also likes to nuzzle, because I taught her how to nuzzle, and so now she does it. Every morning when I stroke the side of her head, she'll nuzzle into it like a cat. And, a lot of people say, well, that's probably why, because she's getting ready to shed. No, she isn't. She's done a lot of shedding. She's done all the shedding she can do right now, and she has had her last shedding about 4 or 5 months ago. And adult bearded dragons usually, if they're lucky, will shed once a year, but that's because they've reached their full size. Younger bearded dragons will shed a lot, and now we're getting into the rubbing. Bearded dragons, especially younger ones, will start rubbing against their log, or rubbing against their basking stick, rubbing against their husbandry, or rubbing against any rough surface they can find. They mainly do this because they want to get a start in their shedding, and usually they'll start at the snout, and then once they get their skin loosened, then the rest of the shedding process can begin. But it's always getting that start, and when they do get that start, you'll find them really rubbing against rough surfaces. And it isn't because they got an itch to scratch. Yeah, it is because it's pretty itchy. Because, I mean, imagine if you were a reptile and you were shedding, wouldn't that become irritating too? Well, Bowsie hates to shed. Even though she knows she's got to do it, she still hates to shed. But I think all bearded dragons feel a bit of irritation from the shedding of the skin. So you'll notice they'll rub against rough surfaces. They'll do a lot of glass surfing. They will do whatever they can to help get those scales off. Now, you can help them along by making sure they stay hydrated. Giving them more constant baths than usual, like maybe instead of once every other day, give it to them once a day, maybe even twice a day. If a bath isn't really what they want, you can always mist them, because they do love being misted. And keeping them misted and keeping them hydrated, especially during a shedding, will ensure that their scales will not dry out too much. They won't have an improper shed. They will stay hydrated enough to where they will have a more soothing shedding by keeping their loose scales hydrated. And it makes it less irritating, less itchy, and a lot easier to deal with. And the excess scales will tend to loosen a lot better than without hydration. So you definitely want to keep them hydrated, especially during shedding season. But if you see your bearded dragon rubbing up against things, it's probably because they're getting ready to shed. Another thing that they like to do, too, is, another behavioral problem, and I do mean that this could be a problem. If you do not have a good enough relationship with your bearded dragon, or if you happen to find one in the wild, they will do this a lot. You'll notice pictures or video, stock footage of bearded dragons when they puff their beards out and they turn completely black. That usually means that they're intimidated, they're about ready to strike, their big gaping mouth means, stay away from me, I'm going to bite you. And that's the last thing you generally would see before they reach back and start attacking you. Some bearded dragons can get intimidated very easily. Others are very calm. It depends on the type of bearded dragon they are, how they feel on the inside, how they were raised, the type of environment they were in, and whether or not they were abused, neglected, loved, and cared for. All bearded dragons have different personalities. It's just like humans. If you treat your bearded dragon the best that you can, you will get a very happy, healthy bearded dragon who will treat you back with the same respect that you give them. I give Bowsie lots and lots of loving intentions and lots of love, and she gives a lot of that back to me. Look, in the way she cuddles, the way she's happy whenever we're together, the things she does that she knows that she, is playful at times. And when she gets in a playful mood, she will do some of the things that will literally drive me crazy. For one thing, she will start running all over the place. She will start getting into areas where she knows she's not supposed to go, like into hiding some places, like under beds or under furniture, or even getting close to jumping off of furniture if she's up on a high place, like on top of a bed or a counter. Now, that's her playful phase, and that's when she goes into daredevil mode, and that's when she can scare the living crap out of me. And when she does something that she knows she's going to scare me over, and I do freak out, I immediately pick her up, look her over, and she gives me a reassuring gape, and that's that gape of accomplishment that she gives me every single time. And she just uses that as a way to say, "Oh, Daddy, I'm okay. You don't have to worry about me. I'm just fine. See, I'm happy. I'm gaping." What they're really saying is, "Ha! Bearded Dragon 1, owner 0. Because they're keeping score. Bowsie, every time she drives me crazy, she gapes. And she counts every time she gapes as a gape of accomplishment as a point over me in this contest we have. So she can get pretty playful at times too. But most of the time she can be found cuddling up with me. That was my phone. A lot of the time she'll be found cuddling up with me, or climbing on me, or climbing on my face to get to my head, or get tangled in my hair. She loves doing all of that stuff. A lot of people say that they have no concept of affection. They have no concept of love. They don't know what it is they're feeling. That's not true. A lot of people misinterpret the emotions of the bearded dragon through their behaviors. A lot of people who raise bearded dragons, a lot of bearded dragon owners especially, will raise them with the best intentions. But they raise them on the best intentions to keep them healthy, and some of them will raise them on love. Now, if you raise your bearded dragon from infancy to get them to understand what love is by showing them each and every day and being patient with them each and every day and showing them loving intentions like giving them cuddles, nuzzles, giving them kisses, showing them a lot of loving intentions, they understand what that is. They grow with that. They adapt to it. They're able to display their own version of what love is onto us. And Bowsie has done so. And a lot of people will say they still don't have any concept of love. Well, that's what herpetologists say. And herpetologists will say that they don't know what they're giving in the ways of love. They can't show it like a dog or a cat. Yes, that is true. They can't show it like a dog or a cat because there are bearded dragons. They're lizards. Lizards aren't really known for showing affection. You have to pretty much teach them what affection is, what love is. Otherwise, they don't know, and they just sit there and do nothing. So you have to basically teach them what love is, and so that they will understand what that is as they grow with you. And then they'll be able to show it in their way, what love is to them, and we will be able to interpret that as a sign of affection. And Bowsie does this all the time with the cuddles that she gives me and the nuzzles, and when she feels that she needs her daddy the most, and she'll do this a lot, what she'll do is she'll climb up to my chin and she'll bury her head underneath and just nestle in right like that. When she's really needing her daddy, she'll just cling and nestle. And when she wants to show daddy some affection, here's what she does. She'll climb up to the side, and what she will do with her head is she will lean her head against my chin and just sort of give a little nuzzle like this. And she will keep her head there, and if I move my head away, she will push her head more closer toward my chin. And it's like, kind of like her version of having somebody to lean on, being there for her when she needed it the most, and when she gets a little lonely after being in the terrarium all day, she wants to spend time with daddy, and she'll usually start nuzzling and nestling and doing all that other stuff. But she does that as a sign of showing me that she is in need of her daddy, and that's basically what that means. Now, as baby bearded dragons, a lot of them will do a number 2 outside of their terrarium. A lot of them will do them while you're holding them. And a lot of people will wonder, why are they doing this every time I take them out? They never do it in their terrarium. They always do it on me. That's another sign of saying that they love you. And trust me, it is a sign that says, I trust my daddy, I love my daddy, or I love my mommy, I am going to poop on them. Because it is establishing a sense of trust. If they can poop on you and they can imbue that trust in them to be not beaten for that very thing, then they know they can do it again and again. And it's just one of those playful, mischievous things that they know that they can do, that they can get away with because we love them so much, and we let them get away with it because we have to. They're cute, they're adorable, and they're needy, and they're in need of being raised properly. And they know that they can poop on us and get away with it. Now, as babies, they'll do this. As juveniles, they'll do this. But as adults, when they mature, that's when they start getting into the habit of having their bowel movements simulated by a nice hot bath. When they become a year old, that's when you start having to giving them baths in order to simulate their bowel movements, because as they grow older, the toleration for going number 2 is less and less frequent. So you kind of have to help them keep regular by giving them warm and very hot, very warm or hot baths in order to simulate their bowel movements. And if they don't do it right away, you got to kind of massage their stomach, lift them up out of the water, rub their bellies, put them back in the water, constantly check the temperature of the water, make sure it stays above a certain temperature. Don't let it get too cold, or else they'll just, they won't do anything. But some of the behaviors of the bearded dragon aren't very common at all. And I'm talking about, of course, the tail wave. A lot of people never seen this in a bearded dragon before. Some of them have, but don't understand what that means. And let's say, for example, you're taking your bearded dragon out for the first time in the day, and you hold them to you, and you start petting them, and you hold them against you like this, and just going through a normal phase of holding your bearded dragon, like I'm doing with Bowsie here. Let's say, for example, they start waving their tail like this, and you let go of them, and they stop. Once you've touched them again, they start again. And it's like, what is this? What does this mean? It means basically that they built enough of a trust with you to understand that they don't have to puff their beard at you when they're intimidated or when they want to be left alone. This is another reason why they tell their owners, leave me alone, I want some me time right now, I don't feel like being handled. And they will wave their tail to show that it is another sign of intimidation, like, I really don't want to be handled right now. And if you happen to be picking up your bearded dragon and they do that wavy tail thing, do the best thing for your bearded dragon. Carefully place them back into their terrarium, because it's not an ideal time to take them out. They want some me time. They want some alone time. They don't want to be handled right now. That's basically what that tail waving motion means. Let's see. I went over the arm wave and the tail, the head bobbing. Going back to that, they use that as a sign of mating. The faster the head bob, the more dominating the male. Let's say there's one female, 2 males in the same area, and both males are doing the head bobbing thing. The one that bobs their head the fastest is also the strongest and the most dominating of the 2. Chances are that one male is going to get to the female first. Especially if you see 2 males and they're doing the head bobbing thing together, they'll usually do that before they start getting into a fight, because bearded dragons are very territorial too. And so that's just one of the things they'll do in order to show, I'm the boss around here, you better scram, and I'm going to bob my head at you. But if the other one is saying, I'm going to take over this turf, you don't deserve this turf, I'm bobbing my head at you. And so basically they'll go through a series of head bobs before they actually get into actual melee combat. And I've seen bearded dragons actually go at it until one of them is seriously hurt. Bearded dragons in the wild will do this all the time. Bearded dragons in mating season will do this all the time. And you just got to know, if you have a pet bearded dragon and it's doing this, that means separate any bearded dragons away from each other, because they're going to go after each other. They're very territorial creatures. And in order to introduce new bearded dragons together, it's best to do them from a distance. Get them to acknowledge their presence first. You definitely don't want to put them together right straight away, because if you do, you're going to run the risk of them not getting along, they're getting into fights, one of them hurts the other, the next thing you know, you got a very injured bearded dragon. If you want to introduce an adult with another adult, you have to do it from a distance first. Get them to see each other and acknowledge their presence. Make sure one of them is behind glass and the other one is out in the open. That way, there's something that prevents actual physical contact. If they keep doing this again and again, chances are you're not going to be able to get them both together, because they're going to start tearing each other apart. If you have to, keep them both in separate terrariums. If you're trying to get a male and a female to mate, use that same technique. Introduce them from a distance and then bring them slowly together. Just notice the telltale signs of them actually showing any signs that they'll get along with each other. Because if they show intimidation, the puffing of the beard, the gaping of the mouths, the swishing of the tail, the intimidation, the running back and forth, the rearing up on the head, lifting it high, getting up onto their front legs like that. All signs of saying, oh, I'm on my guard now, so I'm watching you, and I'm watching every move you make, and if you're going to make me intimidated, I'm going to intimidate you right back. And that's basically what they're doing. They're setting each other up for the kill. And you definitely want to be able to introduce the two bearded dragons physically together when they don't beard puffing or gaping at each other or anything like that. You want to definitely wait till they've calmed down a bit and get them used to being in the same room together. And eventually they will grow on each other. Eventually they will calm down to where they understand that they're about to meet for the first time. They got to calm down sometime. And if they just don't, then that means just don't even bother trying to get them together. Because bearded dragons are very territorial creatures, and some of them will fight to the death to protect their domicile. And so you definitely want to introduce adult bearded dragons especially. Babies aren't as territorial as adults are. Babies, though, you do still want to make sure that they are comfortable with the new environment. Give them space. If you're going to put them with other bearded dragons, make sure they understand that this is a new addition to their terrariums. Make sure they are fully aware that there's going to be another one running around. And who knows, they might actually get along with each other and they might grow to love one another. Who knows? Another thing they love to do, especially when they come out of brumation period, is what they call glass surfing. Now, Bowsie was doing a lot of this morning, and she was pretty hyper today. So she's kind of in the middle of brumating and coming out of brumation. She's starting to eat a little bit more, and her brumation cycle only lasted a couple of weeks. But bearded dragons are different. Some of them will last a couple of weeks. Some of them will last up to 4 months. It depends on how much rest your bearded dragon needs in order to do the brumation, or hibernation, as it's normally called in the animal kingdom, but for reptiles it's called brumation. But it's all the same logic. They go to sleep for a while, and when they do brumate, they do rely on the fats that they take in from their foods, which they store in the base of their tail, to distribute while they're in brumation. But when they come out of brumation, the next behavior you're going to see is them being hyper, and that usually means they're working off a lot of that energy. They're trying to regain their footing. They're trying to regain themselves back into a more conscious state of mind, and also because it's close to mating season, and that's the main reason why they get so hyper, because they're ready to mate, is basically what it is. And a lot of them, when they go hyper and have never been around other bearded dragons of the opposite gender, will still be hyper, will still be ready to mate, because it's instinctual. When your bearded dragon starts glass surfing, chances are it wants to come out, it wants to hang out with you, it wants to run around, run amok, be mischievous. Just make sure you keep a very close watch on what they do, where they go. Make sure they don't go into areas they're not supposed to, and make sure that they are kept in your sights at all times. Don't let them hide under furniture, because you don't want to take the wrong step and accidentally stepping on one, and then you will have a flat as a pancake bearded dragon. And that's something that I don't even want to think about. But every time Bowsie does this, I always take her out, and the first thing she does is cling to me. So I knew that was her way of telling me, get me out of here. I feel so entrapped inside this terrarium. I have to get out of here. I have to be out with you. I don't want to be cooped up here. And that's basically the extent of their glass surfing. They just want to come out and be with us. Other behavioral patterns that they do have, though, I've gone over many of them. many of them which are very, very common in bearded dragons. Many that are common and relating to a specific gender, like the arm waving thing, is usually partial to females or young beardies in development before they reach adulthood. Like just before they reach adulthood, they'll do the arm wave thing or they'll do the head bob thing. That's all normal. That's all perfectly normal. The rubbing against something rough, that usually means that they're getting ready to shed. And especially if you have a lot of patience with your bearded dragon and lots of love go into the care of your bearded dragon, and you're careful about the things they eat, the things they do, and making sure they don't get into too much trouble, and while showing them lots of love and lots of affection, you will have a very happy and very well-mannered bearded dragon, one who hardly ever will see a very aggressive day in their life. Bowsie has never seen an aggressive day in her life. Maybe once in a blue moon, but it's common for bearded dragons to feel that, especially bearded dragons like Bowsie here. Usually, even the happiest bearded dragons in the world will sometimes feel intimidated and will sometimes feel intimidation. You know, I mean, they can't always be 100% happy all the time. If they were, then that wouldn't be a normal bearded dragon. Either that or they're trying to hide what they're really feeling from their owners because they know them too well. But Bowsie, for the most part, is a very happy girl, and her gapes usually remind me of just how happy she is. And especially when we get into our talking phases, like I'll talk to her sometimes, I'll look her right in the eye and I'll use a little cute voice, and I'll pet her underneath her chin like this, and I'll say, "Hi, Bowsie, what you doing, baby?" And she'll like gape up at me, and when she knows she's on camera, she'll gape for the camera. She loves being held, she loves meeting people, she loves to travel, and she just loves being out and about with Daddy and his friends. And she loves posing. She's always loved posing for cameras. Ever since she was a baby, she grew into loving the camera, posing for the camera, gaping for the camera. There she is. And it's definitely not a sign of respiratory issues. It's not a sign of being overheated or accomplishment. This is a happy gape. And you'll note that the position of the tongue when they gape is also going to be different too. Like way down in the lower jaw for anger, higher up for cooling off, or actually sticking out of their mouth for cooling off, and just resting at the very edge of their jaw for happiness. And that's another way that you can tell the extent of their gape by where they place their tongues. That is another way to interpret the state of their gaping. If they are having respiratory problems, they will gape, but you will notice their sides, their ribs especially, will expand and contrast really quickly. That means that they are having trouble breathing. And that means get them to a veterinarian fast. A lot of the times, a lot of behaviors in bearded dragons are normal and can cause their owners to wonder, what the hell's going on with my bearded dragon? I don't understand it. But if you ever suspect your bearded dragon to be lethargic, ill, hurt, injured, if you ever suspect your bearded dragon to need a checkup, always keep the number of your veterinarian handy, especially one who deals in exotic pets, because you never know when these little guys will surprise you with something that even you're not expecting, and something that even behavioral patterns won't say, but that body language will. But you have to be able to interpret that body language in order to understand your bearded dragon better, to understand what they're feeling, understand how they're feeling, and understand whether or not it's a sign of good health, normal behavior, or, in some cases, illness, injury, or lethargism. Isn't that right, baby? But I know you're a happy bearded dragon, and you like to gape for Daddy, you like to gape for the camera. There's a little anecdote I'd like to share too, and this one goes into a behavioral pattern that deals with her gapes. We had a little girl over visiting with us who is one of the churchgoers to a family member here. And when she saw Bowsie, she absolutely fell in love with Bowsie. Every time she came over, she would always ask, "Can I see Bowsie?" She loves Bowsie, and Bowsie loves being, around people and I actually let her hold Bowsie. And I got out the camera. I was going to take some pictures of her holding the bearded dragon, and it was really an amazing thing because I told her, you have to hold her with both hands. You cannot hold her by the tail. You have to hold her by her underbelly, and she did. She held her perfectly, and Bowsie stayed right there. And once I got out the camera, started taking pictures, she started gaping, and she held that gape for the many pictures that I have taken of her with this little girl, and both of them were smiling for the camera. And once the picture taking was over, Bowsie kind of quit gaping, and she was ready to go back to Daddy. But during that time, I think there was the most amazing set of pictures that were ever taken, because she actually started gaping, in a form of happiness of being in front of a camera, being held in a gentle way, and just the things that bearded dragons, especially Bowsie, loves being in. She loves being in front of cameras. She loves being handled, and she loves being out and about with people. I took her to Phantom Fest, and everybody loved her. And I actually had quite a few people asking me, "Is that real? Can I pet it?" And she loved it. She took it all in. So, she is a very happy girl, and one that loves to get into mischief, which I think that's one of the reasons why she's so happy. She loves her mischief, and she loves driving her daddy crazy. So when she gets that way, she will tend to reassure me with a gape of accomplishment by saying, "Oh, Daddy, you're just being silly. I'm okay, and I'm just perfectly fine. And look, see, it was a joke. It was a joke all along. See, there's my gape." And she will do that a lot. When she thinks she scared me the most, she will reassure me with a gape of confidence, but more so a gape of her accomplishment, like, "I'm keeping score on this." And she will actually, think to herself, and I don't know if she's actually thinking this way or what, but it seems to me that she's keeping score with every time she does something that's going to drive me crazy. It's like she's like thinking to herself, "Yeah, I won this one. You lost." So Bowsie will have those moments too. But however you are with your bearded dragon, I can only hope that you are as loving to your bearded dragon as they are to you, and hopes that your bearded dragon will be just as happy and healthy as Bowsie, and will be able to tell you about it in their behaviors, in their body language, and it's how you interpret their body language and their behaviors in order to better understand your bearded dragon, so that they can better understand you at the same time. And it's all a part of being able to share that communication between bearded dragon and owner. And together you can and will have great communication with each other just by knowing each other's body languages. Bowsie knows mine right now, and I definitely know hers. And with a lot of help and a little bit of tips from this video, you can definitely tell and be able to interpret your bearded dragon's behavior, your bearded dragon's feelings, what they feel, how they feel about you, how they feel about certain other things, and especially seeing all of that great behavior coming back to you in the form of their personalities, their body language. There is just no greater feeling in the world knowing that your efforts of taking care of your bearded dragon the best way you know how is coming back to you in their body language by showing you, "I'm happy, I'm healthy, and it's all thanks to you." And that's basically the same feeling I get whenever I interpret Bowsie's body language. Isn't that right? Oh, she's too comfortable. She doesn't want to talk to the camera right now. So, yeah, she wants to cuddle with Daddy. But I do have to bring up Bowsie, though, because we got to do our closing here. But while I grab Bowsie here, if anybody out there has any questions based on the behavioral issues of bearded dragons, chances are I've been through it, I know what you're going through, and I could probably help you through it, and probably help you identify what the bearded dragon is trying to say. So if you have any questions like that, leave them in a comment down below, and I will get to them as soon as possible, because we're dealing with bearded dragon care, and I will try to get to those questions as soon as they come up. Other than that, lots of luck to you out there, wherever you are, and however many bearded dragons you have, or you planning on getting, or if you're planning on getting your first. There are a lot of things to learn about the bearded dragon, but then bearded dragon has to learn about you too. So you have to allow each other the ability to do so, and you do so, your intentions, behavioral patterns, and definitely lots and lots of patience and affection. That's what got Bowsie through, huh? Isn't that right, baby? One other thing I forgot to mention too, you'll notice they'll tilt their heads a lot. Now, bearded dragons, as explorative as they are, they're also very inquisitive. Like, if they're tilting their head at you, you're probably talking to them in a way where they find it fascinating. And sometimes they'll tilt their head to get a better view at something, because lizards, bearded dragons especially, do not have decent depth perception. They have great vision, but lousy depth perception. So they'll tilt their head a lot, especially if they want to get a good look at something. Or if they're being inquisitive, they'll look directly at you. Okay, they will basically have good eye contact with you. When they tilt their head, that usually is a sign that they're intrigued about something. They're fascinated by something. If they're trying to get a good view at something, they'll move their eyes around a lot while they tilt their heads. Sometimes, if you're not doing anything and they tilt their heads, they probably see something that caught their eye and they're trying to get a better look at it. So bearded dragons tilt their heads in a variety of reasons as well. And so being able to determine, maybe they hear you talking and they hear you say a certain set of words that kind of intrigue them. The way you say them, it makes them think, is that aimed at me? Are you meaning to refer that to me? Are you talking to me? They'll tilt their heads. They kind of do that like a dog would. And, Bowsie does that with me all the time, especially when I talk to her a lot. She'll really do the head tilting when I start talking to her. To give you a better idea on how bearded dragons can see, you notice their head will stay in one spot, but their body moves. That is a good sign of a healthy bearded dragon too. That is one that also is very transfixed in vision. They have good sight. They just don't really have good depth perception, though. That's the only thing. There are so many other tests that you can use to determine whether your bearded dragon is healthy. But if for any reason you feel that you do not have a healthy bearded dragon on your hands, then make sure that you have the number of a local veterinarian, one who deals with exotic pets, on hand at all times. You never know when you're going to need this, and you never know when your bearded dragon is going to need it too. And that veterinarian may tell you something that not even body language from a bearded dragon can tell. So, whatever the case may be, and however your bearded dragon behaves, we can only hope that you have the best of luck with keeping your bearded dragon happy, healthy, and always showing a lot of enthusiasm in the way that you take care of them and the way they take care of you right back, and assuring you that their health and assuring you that their behavioral patterns are good ones. So we got to say goodbye right now, but wishing you the best of luck in the care of your bearded dragon, and hopefully these videos have sort of inspired you to perhaps start caring for your own bearded dragons. And the next episode of Bowsie's Vlogs, I'm not sure what all I'm going to talk about, but I'm pretty sure it's going to deal with something very important about bearded dragon care and something that Bowsie has gone through. So just tune in next time for Bowsie's Vlogs, where you get some tips, some funny anecdotes, and just an all-around great experience for one and all. Now, Bowsie, say goodbye to all the viewers out there. Give them a nice big smile. Is Bowsie happy to do that? Does Bowsie want to do that? Well, she's giving a little smile, and I think that's good enough. From here at Bowsie's Vlogs, this is Bowsie the Bearded Dragon and her owner, Sonic Blue, wishing you lots of luck in the care of your bearded dragon in hopes that yours is going to be just as happy and healthy as Bowsie.